G'day guys, John here from Live at the Hive. A different backdrop. We've actually moved into our new studio here in Hamilton in sunny Scotland. Anyway, more on that next week. We'll be going through and giving you a bit of a tour and giving you some more information. So let's get straight into it. My next guest has his own gym. He decided that he's going to create a festival, and that festival is going to be held in Loch. It's called WOD on the Loch. And wow, what a location it is. Super excited. I actually went out there, did a bit of recon, had a bit of a look, and it is going to be super exciting. Anyway, let's get straight into it and get him to explain what it is. You excited? I am. We've moved into the new lodge. Let's do it. Hey Kyle, how you doing? Thanks for coming on the show today.
No worries, man.
I'm excited to talk to you, mate, about your business, and you've got a few different ventures going on. So let's get straight into it. How did it all start?
Well, so in terms of the gym or the event?
Both.
Both. I suppose the gym was first. So I used to, my first night of school, I done like all my coaching stuff at the Scottish School of Sport. And I used it a little bit, but then I went away. I was more focused on my own kind of athletic career. Went away to America and played football over there. Came back and done bodybuilding and stuff. But it was around about 2013 after I done like I won the novice category at the novice sports model category at the World Championships for INBA. And after that, I got a lot of requests. I started doing coaching online. This was kind of before we had all these good platforms. So at the moment I use Fitter, which is like it's a coaching platform, so I can go in and put all my stuff in, and then people have an app. And so before all that, it was just literally you would create something on like a Word document and then just send it to them, and they would print it out, and then they would take it to the gym with them, and then do all that. So it was proper old school. So I'd done all the online coaching that way, and it was all one-to-one. Wasn't like templates we would do specific to each person. Done that for years. And then eventually got to the point where I was like, I want to start coaching in real life again. So it's funny, a lot of people start coaching in real life and then they move to online because there's more money there. But I think for me, I was still doing other jobs, and I was like just doing a lot of online coaching. I thought, well, I wanted to go full time and start coaching in person again. So it was like 2017, I rebranded as like Peak Fitness. And from there, like I bought a load of kit. And then used to just take it in my van, and like before and after work, I would go and I would either meet people at parks and stuff and do like PT, or I went around a few different gyms and took classes and had like a little boot camp thing I done, and just with like some limited kit that I'd bought, and then but always with the goal to open my own place. And then that was when myself and my wife just started looking for a new house, with the idea of either finding somewhere with the space to build a facility next to it, or find somewhere with already like an outbuilding there. And we managed to took us a while to find something, so we ended up we sold our house and had to move in with her mum and dad until we could find the perfect place. But we managed to find a house that had this huge big, like almost like it's like a double garage, but it's almost like two garages joined together. And so you get like a smaller section at the back, and you've got like a massive peaked roof on it. So we basically bought a house with the intention of turning that into the gym. So that's what we've done. We've turned that into the gym. And it's like you can have myself and like 3 other people in there at once, like doing like PT or small group classes and stuff like that. So that was how that kind of developed, and we opened that like December 2018, like January 2019 sort of thing. And like obviously was growing and doing well up until COVID struck in March. But that's obviously like, so with myself obviously training, it actually came about, the whole event came about because as we were growing, as the gym was growing, it was kind of getting to the point where I was like, right, I either want to go one of two ways here. Like, do I actually open a big CrossFit affiliate, a big box somewhere? And in where I am in Ayrshire, there's one in Irvine, and then obviously as you go further down the coast, there's a few in Ayr and stuff like that. But where I am in Coinning, there's not anything. Basically, there's not anything along the west coast from Irvine all the way to you get to Greenock. So there's a CrossFit gym in Greenock, and there's obviously the one in Oven, but there's nothing in between there. So there was definitely scope for growth, and where I am in Corinne, you can just go down the bypass and go, you skip out Stevenson, Saltcoats and Dross, and there was a great little place that I had in mind. But to try and get a bit of property there was just like a nightmare. So in terms of logistics of how it would work, it was really between, I was wanted to eventually have an event as well. So it was like, what was the best option? Open a big box or run an event? And obviously in hindsight with COVID, neither would have been a great idea. But of all the years to start an event, we decided to go down the event route, because I think for me, I'm quite an organised person. Like, as long as I've got everything written down, I can sort of work my way through things. So it was just really, it made more sense to go down the event route. I love the programming side of coaching and CrossFit and stuff like that. So the programming side of thing was really cool. I wanted to create my own event and create this big spectacle. And I think as well with Scotland and the scenery we've got, there was so much untapped. Like, there only is 2 other competitions in Scotland, and they're both like indoor. So there's nothing that's utilising the beauty that we've got in Scotland. So that's what I wanted to create something that was like massive, but also use the Scottish scenery and stuff like that. So I think it just made more sense at the time. So I went down the event road, and then like, so yeah, it was like the end of 2019 when we started when we started the event and started marketing and stuff like that and building it up. And then obviously March 2020, like a few months before it was supposed to take place in July 2020, obviously everything had to shut down.
Yeah.
So 10th and 11th of July.
10th and 11th. Yeah, cool.
10th and 11th of July. So yeah, it's big 2-day event up at Loch Lomond. So it's going to be, the original plan was to have some outdoor events in Luss, and then the rest of it would be indoor in Paisley. But again, with COVID, it's kind of like we had to sort of think, like, we need to have a plan B here just in case things don't open back up, to have the actual event like all outdoors, because when gyms got the green light to reopen last year in August, so the actual indoor arena is part of the lagoon, which is like a council run facility. So they've got a gym in there and they've got a swimming pool and stuff like that, but through the back they've got a big massive like events arena, so that's where the indoor stuff was going to be. But even last year, so all the gyms were given the green light to open in August, all the council run places didn't open until like the 1st of September. So they were like a month later on, just because they seemed to have much more red tape to jump through. And then even once they opened back up and we were able to get back in touch with them and see like what's happening, they gave us the green light to move the event on a year on. But they were even saying at the time, even though they were open back up, they couldn't have events running inside, because they had to take every second piece of equipment out of their gym to socially distance the gym, so there was a space in between each piece of equipment, and then take those pieces, and then they ended up laying them out on the events arena floor. So it was basically like the gym was spread out between the main lagoon gym and then down into the events arena. So even though they were open back up, they still weren't able to host events. So there was no way for us to even know, because what are we now? Like the gyms aren't going to be open now until the 26th of April, and there's no way to even know if they will be able to host events by July. So towards the end of this year, we just had to kind of think, right, let's maybe make the plan B the plan A, and look to host the whole thing outdoors. And to be honest with you, for all the negative sides that COVID has brought, it's actually worked out really, really well. And I actually think for future years, this is probably how it's going to go. It's always, like, we've turned it into a fitness festival, and I think that's what we're going to do in future years. I think it's just always going to be outdoors now. Obviously, you've got it's Scotland, so even in summer you might get a bit of rain. So there's always that to contend with. But I think people, especially with the people who do CrossFit, their mindset is, once the 3-2-1 goes, it doesn't really matter what the weather's like. People are going to have a great time. They're going to enjoy it. Yeah. And plus, we're going to be in the Loch anyway, so people are going to be wet anyway for that. So I just think it's worked out really well in that terms of things. So so the event itself is 2 days, and it's all going to be outdoors now, and it's all, which another good thing about it is it's all within the one little area. So people get on site. If we've got people coming from all over the world, I know a lot of people coming from down south. So once they make their way up here, you can fly. If you fly into Glasgow, and you're only like 20-30 minutes from Glasgow Airport, but not even, maybe 20-25 minutes from Glasgow Airport, and you get, you come past Loch Lomond and get to Luss. So if you hire a car, that's fine, or even if you were to get a taxi and get out to Luss from Glasgow Airport, once you're there on site, you don't need to move. We have, so we're going to have like spectator tickets for a single day. We'll have a weekend pass, but we'll also have a weekend pass plus camping. So we have a small campsite that's going to have spaces there for people who want to camp. And then there's 2 hotels in the even though it's a really small village, there's two nice hotels. So we're going to hopefully have deals with them so that athletes can get a discount and stay in these hotels. And then if there's also a brand new like car park that's just getting made and still getting finished just now, which is just across the road from the big field. So like there'll be space there for folk if they have like campers or things like that. So there's loads of options, but there's also to keep everyone in that one area. So once people get to Luss, you don't really need to move. Like you can walk to the beach for the Loch, for the water events. You just literally walk across the road and you're on the hill for the mountain event, and then you're just like a 2-minute walk down to the field. And then once you're in that field, there's no reason you want to leave it, because we've got like all our vendors are going to be around all the way around outside. They're hopefully going to fill the full field with vendors, food trucks, things like that. There's going to be a bar. So again, and that's licensed for the full field. So once you go in and get your beer, you can stay in that field as long as you don't leave the field. You can just wander the full field with your drinks. So there's no reason for people to leave the field and leave the area of Luss. So it'll keep everyone nice and compact. So again, that's been another thing that's actually worked out really well with moving outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. And so is it individual events as well? Is that you made that decision based on COVID, or did you, instead of having like groups or teams or whatever else?
I think just sometimes trying to get a team to put a team together can be difficult. I know I compete a lot myself, and trying to get a team together sometimes can be a nightmare just for people working and things like that. Plus, I also think that the programming side of things for team events is quite different from the way it would be for individual. I think you've got a lot more scope to really test people with an individual, whereas I think like team events sometimes can, although you can get, if you do it right, you can still get a really good test of the fittest team. But I think sometimes it tends to be a little bit more gimmicky, the actual test itself. And for me, one of the main things that I enjoy, and one of the main things I wanted to do about the event itself was the programming side of things. I really want to create a really good test. So I mean, the qualifiers themselves, they'll really test the athletes in the box, in the gym. And we're really lucky again with that, because of the CrossFit Open moving on a few months, that doesn't this week is the last week of the first part of the Open, but then there's a week off, and then there's the quarterfinals, which is like the 8th to the 12th, I think, of the 8th to the 12th of April. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our RX athletes will be competing in that quarterfinal of the Open. So then we will release our qualifiers the week after that, which is on the 17th. And it's actually worked out really well, because the gyms in England open on the 12th, and the gyms in Scotland open the 26th. So we will release them all on the 17th, and we'll give athletes 3 weeks to do them. So it's actually worked out well, because it means we've not had to water down that qualifying process and make it so they Open done for the first stage, they done like an equipment package. So like all the tests that we're doing were doable with a small equipment package of like barbell plates, a box, pull-up bar. And although that was an option that we did think about, even just using the same equipment package, because we know now that the gyms are going to be opening up, and it gave us that little bit extra of leeway time, it means that we didn't have to water down the test, so we can really properly test our athletes in the gym with the movements that they're used to. And then when they come out, if they qualify for the final event, then we really test them outside the gym as well with outdoor events and a little bit more unconventional implements. Like, so our equipment supplier is T-Fench, who do like amazing sandbags. So we've got like sandbags, sand balls, sand logs, and like everything. They really, so it's similar, but it's also quite different. And I think we would encourage people even just to contact them. They're doing a discount for all the athletes that have signed up. If you just mention WOD in the Loch, they're doing a discount. So like, try and get your hands on a sandbag beforehand, because it is quite different. And once you get a wee shot of it, like it's weird, because maybe like if you've got a decent technique with the sandbag, then the sand ball can maybe be a little bit lighter, because there's less technique involved than a barbell. But then when you go to like the sand logs, like a 40 kilo sand log feels a lot heavier than a 40 kilo barbell. So it's definitely something that like people will be surprised at, but it'll be fun. It's definitely going to be fun. The test in general is like we test them fully out in the box, in the gym, and then they come to the event and they get fully tested outdoors as well. Yeah.
Okay. And is this your first event that you've ever run? And in regards to that, the second part of that is, what do you find is most valuable in running an event? Is it being organized? And because I'm assuming you're organizing, have you got a team that you're helping to do all of this and bring it all together?
Yeah. So the first question, yeah, it's my first event I've ever ran. Like I did, so when I done bodybuilding, so I said to you, I went across and competed in the World Championships. So I competed in two INBA World Championships, and I was actually the UK promoter for INBA, and so I took a team from athletes from Wales, Ireland, Scotland, England, and like created a team and took them across to the World Championships in Slovakia as the promoter. So I have done plenty of like that type of organising stuff before, but in terms of like CrossFit event, this isn't my first event. But I think the reason that I think it suits me is just the organised side of things. Like as long as I've like don't get me wrong, it's I sometimes joke and say to Zoe, it's like when you're that feeling you get when you're going on holiday and you're just driving out the driveway and you keep thinking I forgot something, I've left something in the house. It's like I've literally had that for like the last 2 years. I'm feeling every day. I'm thinking I've got something to do. I've got a meeting here. I've got something there. And it's a lot to have in your brain to not forget anything. But I'm really list. I love a list. So I've got so many list apps on my phone, and so I'll like have everything. As soon as I think of something, I just stick it in the list, and that way I know it's down there. I won't forget about it. And then every so I'm just constantly checking the list, running through it. And it really is a case when you first start the event, it's like you need to basically work out what you need to run the event properly, write everything down you can think of, and then just rearrange that list into the order of importance and order of like process. So obviously some things you can't do this until you've done that. You can't do that. So it's like there obviously has to be an order to it. And if you just be methodical with it, you just have to work your way through it. I think sometimes, and I think people that I've contacted will maybe like agree with this. Like I feel sometimes one of my main jobs is just to hound people and just to be on at people all the time, because I've got, like you say, I've got a list of things that need done, but I can't do C until B and A is done. And sometimes I'm waiting on someone to get to A and they don't realise that I'm waiting on them. So like it's just sometimes a case of I need this done, and I'm just chasing people up, get them to do that, and then that unlocks me. I can now do B and C, and then just start working through that until you hit another roadblock. And I think just being organised, having an organised mind, and being able to work your way through things.
You're super organised, that's for sure. In regards to platforms that you like to use to push this event out, is Instagram probably one of your biggest?
Yeah, in terms of advertising, I think that for everyone nowadays, it's Instagram and Facebook really are the best places to advertise. Like no one looks at papers, nobody spoils anything like that anymore. I think people just go on Instagram and Facebook and they see things there, and it's so good because if people, it just grows so organically. So when we first started the event, like you just put a few things up, and straight away you see the strength of the community, the strength of like the CrossFit community. Just people just start sharing it, and then before you know it, you've got 1,000 followers, and people are like so excited. And it almost like advertised itself. As soon as you start doing some stuff for it, people get excited. People want to compete, and they want to do events, especially if there's one on their doorstep, because there really isn't that many. As I said, there's only two other ones in Scotland, and both indoors. So to have something like that, everyone from Scotland, and then bringing in those from like England and from around the world because of the scenery, it kind of sells itself.
Yeah. In regards to the two businesses that you do have, what advice would you give to someone who's starting out and or who is in business but is finding it really difficult to take it to the next step or go to the next level?
I think for somebody who's wanting to start their own business, so all my businesses, I've always like been self-employed. I've quite a lot of different businesses, and I think I suppose it's like anything, any goal that you've got, it's being realistic. I think if sometimes people can see that end goal of what they want. Like if I was to, for example, just go, right, and this is sometimes I think is interesting because people who don't know or don't, or you just tell someone I'm going to put this event on, they think, what? Do you know how much you're taking on there? And making a thing. But so that is a big thing. Like if you want to do something, sometimes you want to have that big picture goal in the distance that you think, like, that is my goal. That's what it's going to be like. So, for example, when I bought the house that we bought with the big building next to it, it was a wreck. But in my head, I actually saw it exactly how I wanted it to look. And I remember, like, I had a friend over and we were in there with literally some of the pieces of equipment that I used to have carry about in my van. So we had a few kettlebells in there and it was just literally a dusty concrete floor. But I remember telling him, like, and he came back because I said, like, I'm going to cut the roof open there. I'm going to open that roof up. I'm going to have an AstroTurf strip down there. I'm going to have the rig there. And I just explained all to him my vision of what it was going to be like. And then once we finished building it, he came round and he was like, it's literally everything you said it was going to be is exactly how it is. We've done it that way. And it's a cool feeling, but there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just a case of that's what it's going to be, and it just happens. You've got, yes, so you need to have that vision, you need to have that end goal of what you want it to be like, but you also have to be really realistic and realise, for me to get there, what are the steps that I need to put in, and then you have to be willing to put that in. If you just go in and think, I want to do this, but you're not realistic about how much is actually involved, you end up biting off more than you can chew. So having an end goal, but then being like, right, okay, in order for me to get to that, I need to do all this stuff here, and being realistic with it, and then going, am I willing to put in the work that's needed to do that stuff? And then sometimes it might be a case of, actually, that's more than I'd like to actually do. And that was a case for me when I thought about the box. And I wanted to, when I was at that kind of crossroads, will I open a bigger gym or will I open a smaller one? You look at the bigger one, you think, what would it take for me to get to that there? Right, I would need to buy a piece of property here. I would need to then take out like £1 million loan to then knock that down and build something myself. And it's like, okay, I'm not, that's too daunting at the moment. I'm not in the space where I want to do that. So then you've got to look, you've got to be realistic, but at the same time, still have that big vision and then work your way towards it. But on the way to it, definitely, you hear it all the time, but to split things into small goals, little stepping stones, right, until I want to get to this point, and what do I need to do to get to that point, and then from that point I need to then do this to get to the next point, and just working it as kind of like smaller goals, because again it can kind of become quite daunting if you just think about it as one big thing in the distance.
Yeah, absolutely. And in regards to WOD on the Loch, what do you want that to be? Do you want to run that like a few times a year, or is it just a once a year thing?
I think at the moment, especially because we've changed it to the fitness festival, it might just be a one-off event, but we'll probably run some smaller little things off of that in the future. There's not been any decisions made on that yet, but because we're investing a lot of money in buying the equipment rather than hiring it or getting it loaned to us, we'll have the options to then run like little smaller like training weekends or workshops and things like that we can do. So that's maybe more the options we can do. There's also, as the event itself grows, we might have a team event within the actual event, but because it's not just going to be like a few events here in an indoor arena, because it's going to be like this fitness festival, it might end up, that's probably the way we're going to go for future years. So I think it might end up working better to just have that one big event and then let that itself grow. And then maybe you can have some little offshoots off of that, but mostly just build that big event. So you were there yourself, John, yesterday, and we've got the main field, but next to it there's another field which we can grow into. We can have more camping in there. Because we're working with us estates and they own the land, it's private land. Like they can work with us to do whatever we want to do to try and help grow it, because it's all good for them as well.
So how many people have you got to the event again? The
so
competitors, sorry.
Yeah, so we'll have 210 competitors there on the day. That'll be qualified from the qualifiers, and then we're hoping to have as many spectators as we can get. Really, like the field's huge, so it's the same field where the Highland Games are held every year, and they have like 4,000, 5,000 people there in that field. So if we can tap into that audience and get people to come along from that, because for example, that's not running this year, then that would be great. But anything from like 1,000 spectators would be fantastic. That'd be great.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And then how do I get registered for WOD on the Loch? Can I just go to your website? And also, how does that process work in regards to that? Have I got to film myself and then do the workout and then send it in, or?
Yeah. So the best thing again is just go through our social media. So if you go into our social media, click the link in our bio, and that will take you to a link tree, and there's quite a big obvious box that just says sign up now. You just click that, it'll take you to the Throwdowns page, and then you just sign up for the actual event, and you'll be registered for the qualifier event. So when you do the qualifiers, you'll do them at your garage if you've got the equipment, or do them at in your own gym. But yeah, you'll be asked to film these, and obviously stick to the movement standards that we'll set out in the qualifier videos, and then send those videos in. Again, I think it's been great because the CrossFit Open this year has a lot of gyms are still shut. People who've been doing the CrossFit Open are used to doing that. Some people who maybe in years past have just always done it in their gym, just had a judge judging them and then just verifying the score, have had to get used to filming. So everyone's really used to doing it now. They just film their video, they submit the YouTube link when they submit their score, and then we just go through all the videos and watch them and make sure people are adhering to the standards, and then that gets them. And then the people who will get qualified, we will then, once the qualifiers finish on May the 8th, we'll just send out invites to all those who qualify, and then they can just accept an invitation for the final event.
Cool, that's awesome. A little bit of a sideways question in regards to work, life, family, all of that. How do you balance that? How does Kyle? Do you have certain days where you have family days, and you have how do you work it?
I'm trying to ask my wife. I don't, honestly, it's not easy, John. It's not easy at all. I think for me, at the moment, it's very, very hard. My wife actually quite likes to have set days, so she's really good at actually helping me organise things in my head, because when you're running multiple businesses, it's very easy for you to you try and do so many things, you do nothing right. So she'll try and encourage me to do make this a day for WOD and Loch, make this a day for your work, make this a day for that, and just keep the things separate. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. You've got a meeting that pops up here, and you've got another thing that needs to pop up there. It would be great if you could just put everything into set days, but it sometimes doesn't work like that. And again, so she would prefer that I would do individual days just with her and the family. We would that day would just be dedicated to them, like a Saturday or something like that, and that would be it. But again, sometimes it doesn't work like that, and it's difficult. So for me, I just try and spend as much time as I can with the kids when I've got the time. So, and to be fair, it's quite a lot. At night times, I'll come in during the day if I'm training or doing something. I'll come in. The boys will be in the gym with me. That's another great benefit of the gym being right next to the house.
True.
Joe is in the garden. He comes into the gym. He messes about. So I spend loads of time with the kids there, and then just trying to buy out times when you can. Especially in Scotland, you get a nice sunny night one night, and you're going to get a sunset. It's just right, I'm finished for work, I'll meet you down the beach, and we'll spend a couple hours down the beach watching the sunset, letting the kids play in the sand, just doing little bits and pieces here and there. It'd be ideal if you could do set days, but when you're busy, just trying to make sure that when you have the chance to do it, just buying out these times and kind of jumping on them. Yeah. But you want to spend time with family. It's not something that's not a chore. So it's just when you can get it, you try and jump on it, really.
Can fit it in. Yeah, I do struggle with it all the time. But we've tried. It's the same thing. You're so right. It's trying to find set days. We try and do that, but at the same time, it is really difficult. If it's not convenient for someone who you want to work with, or you're doing something, it can be really difficult. It's a bit of a juggle. It's an ongoing battle, I think what it is. Right?
For children, and even you'll probably remember yourself when you were a child. It's not really. They don't remember these. Well, they'll still remember these big days and things that they've done, but it's the constant attention they want. The children thrive off of attention. If you're giving them attention and really giving them focused attention, then they love it. So when I come in from work, I try and have my phone away. So it's you've not got your phone in your hand all the time, so that if you're sitting, even if you're tired and you're sitting there with them, you can be reading them a book, you can be playing with them or doing something. Just for them to see that you're just 100% in the moment with them, I feel for them anyway, that's enough. They get that, and they feel like they're getting what the attention they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate you coming on today and chatting to me and going through. I've definitely got some information that I'll be using for sure. So thanks so much for coming on, Kyle, and we look forward to hearing more from you about WOD on the Loch and also your gym as well.
Nice one. Thanks a lot, John. Cheers.
Thanks, boss.
When I first left school, I went to the Scottish School of Sport and done So you just started the call. Sorry, my mum just came out.
Oh, that's all right, of course. Hey, Mum.
Hi. I hope I'm in this podcast then.
Yeah, you get Mum in the podcast. Get Mum in the podcast. Let's do this.